The Power Play Post Show is on the air, covering minor league hockey since 2003, and now covering the Binghamton Black Bears with news, reactions, and in-depth interviews only heard here. And now, from the Box Studios in Kirkwood, New York, here are your hosts of the Power Play Post Show, Bob Howard and Taylor Welch.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Power Play Post Show. This is the show for August 6th. 2026. This is season 16, episode number 1. That's right. Episode number 1 in our new season of the Power Play Post Show. This is episode 595 in the long-running podcast that is the Power Play Post Show. Hello, everyone. I am Bob Howard, and of course, I'm joined with
Taylor Welch.
And Taylor, I wasn't truly planning on doing the debut episode of season 16 this week. I was kind of hoping to do it next week, give us a couple weeks off, because every time I say we're going to have a couple weeks off, some big news comes out and happens. And of course, last week it was on Thursday where two big bits of news came out. First, Jacob Shankar was traded to the Mid-South Monarchs for future considerations. And then about 3 hours later, the announcement that Brant Sherwood would be returning to the Black Bears as head coach also was released. So I was like, well, now I got to do an interview with Brant, and now we got to come on and talk to the fan base and talk about the trade and, of course, the interview with Brant Sherwood. So, hi, Taylor. How's it going?
Oh, it's going. And it was funny. I was just kind of thinking about how I don't think they want us to take a break.
No.
Because as you just said, like every time you're like, oh, we're going to be, we're going to have a couple weeks off. You won't hear from us for a little while. And then the Black Bears are like, oh, okay, we'll see about that. And they announce something that's big and major.
Yeah.
Where if we didn't talk about it, people would wonder what's going on.
Absolutely. Now, of course, we're signing players. There's 11 rookies right now. There's 3 returners. And of course, really the big news was, when was Brant Sherwood going to make a decision? He had to make a decision to obviously either go coach somewhere else, maybe in ECHL, either as an assistant or as a head coach. Brant is very open and honest in the interview that you guys will hear in a little bit about maybe some disappointment of not getting jobs up in the ECHL, but that I think will come in time for Brant Sherwood. I think it's a matter of time to kind of continue to build on his resume, and his resume looks good, even if the ECHL is not looking at the Fed right at the moment like they look at the SPHL. It's like the ugly stepsister, so to speak, syndrome. But I think what will happen is people will have to not look at him. They'll have to look at him. They'll have to take notice as he continues to build his resume here in Binghamton. But what I wanted to open up the show with is talking about the Jacob Shankar trade. And Taylor, obviously, a lot of the fans knew this was coming. Zachary had signed with Mid-South. And, of course, Tyson Kirkby was picked first because he was left exposed in the expansion draft, and he went there. Zachary went there. Obviously, Jacob probably went to Brant Sherwood and said, I want to go play with my brother, and I want to go play with Tyson Kirkby there. They're all from Prescott, Ontario in Canada. It's a small town right on Lake Ontario. And, of course, they all wanted to play together professionally at some point. Now, I'm going to say this right now. I don't blame Jacob at all for that. I completely understand that. I completely understand the 3 of them wanting to play together. If I were to lay any blame on anybody for this trade, for the events that have happened, it would be Tyson Kirkby. He wanted out of Binghamton. He wanted to go somewhere different and try something new. Zachary followed him down there. He's never played professionally here in North America. I think maybe a couple ECHL games, maybe not. I might be incorrect on that. But he wanted to go and play with Tyson down in Mid-South. That obviously was going to draw Jacob to want to do the same thing. The 3 of them together on one pro team. For them, it's a great story. It is a good story. But if there's anyone you can blame, if you want to blame Andreas, if you want to blame Brant Sherwood, you have no clue what you're talking about. You can blame really only one person, and that's Tyson Kirkby for wanting to leave the Binghamton Black Bears. So there's that. I don't blame Jacob for wanting to trade. I don't blame him for wanting to go play down there. Good luck down there. But I also feel there's repercussions to this, that the optics didn't look good for the Binghamton Black Bears. Of course, Tyson's gone. Jacob has now been traded there for future considerations, which really doesn't mean much at the moment. So to me, the optics look bad for the Black Bears. I think everybody's okay with the whole situation of Tyson leaving and Jacob is being traded there because they understand the whole situation. But to me, there's a bad taste in my mouth, and I'm not speaking for you at all here, Taylor, and I'm going to let you comment here in a few seconds. For me, I have a bad taste in my mouth about this whole situation because, Tyson was a 5-year player here in Binghamton. He was the captain the last 3 years, and then something changed for him that he wanted out. And fine, that's fine if you want to do that, but taking players with you, to me, I have a bad taste in my mouth about that. And really the optics of Jacob Shankar being traded, and there's no player coming back initially. I know it's not the NHL, it's single A hockey. Players don't make a lot of money. They want to do what they want to do, and they hold all the power and all the cards when it comes to these situations. But it doesn't look good optics-wise for the Binghamton Black Bears. That's my thoughts on it. What are your thoughts?
Initially, I keep telling you this, that I'm very torn, and it's weird to kind of look at it because you look at it from every possible angle. As a fan, it's completely fine, and you can take it however you want. You can be mad about it, you can be happy for him, you can all of these things. And I think everybody overall is very happy for him. They want him to obviously succeed in his career and do the thing that he loves. But at the same time, I know that you build such great relationships in certain areas. And I'm not saying that he couldn't do that there, and he probably will. He's obviously a very easygoing person, and he was a very quick fan favorite here. So I'm sure he will be down there as well. Right, exactly. But at the same time, you built such strong connections here, and it kind of felt like, oh, well, Tyson up and left, so I'm just going to follow in his footsteps type of thing. To me, and I don't want to say, I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, but it almost felt like he's following Tyson. And that's just my feeling about it. And I have nothing against Tyson. I have nothing against the Shankars. I love his parents. They're great. I got to know him as a player. They've been so wonderful. And I think that's part of the issue that I think some of the fans have, is that so many people have gotten to know this family. And it's kind of heartbreaking to know that we're not going to see them until, February, when we face Mid-South, and we only have 2 games against them. So that part does kind of suck, where, you're only going to see this guy, maybe 2 games out of this entire season, and, to see his family and that type of thing. I think it's very hard for some players, or for some of the fans. But at the same time, looking at it, and, Brant does a great job talking about this in the interview. Yeah. And I don't want to give too much of that away before you guys actually get to the Brant interview, because the way that Brant talks, there is hardly anything that he says where I don't disagree with him. Everything that he says, I completely understand. I see his side. I agree with everything that he's doing wholeheartedly. And, when you have a player that comes to you and says, I want to do X, Y, Z, and Brant, whether he wants you, because Brant brings in so many talented people, not all of them can either stay here, or they don't want to play here, or they want to move on, or they want to go try a different league. And Brant does what he needs to do to help the player. Because a prime example of what you're talking about there is Blake Tosto, right? Blake Tosto has never once played a full season in Binghamton. Every time we thought Blake Tosto was going to be here, he left to go to the SPHL. For some reason, there was something about him that said, I like Binghamton. I like the fans. I like the arena. I like my teammates. I like Brant Sherwood, but I'm going to go play somewhere else. And it's weird because he's a part of 2 championship teams, yet he barely played any time here. And, so players will come, and some will want to play here, and some don't. Yeah, and that, Brant does so much for these players to make sure they're well taken care of, to make sure they have everything they need, and to ultimately make sure they end up where they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a couple guys that have been here for 5 years. We've had a couple guys who have been here for all 3 championships. So there's obviously a reason that these guys are staying.
Yeah.
And that I 100% believe that with my whole heart that it is Brant at the very top of that list. And I would put fans right below him, but they're here because of Brant. The way that Brant handles everything, the way that he takes care of these players, and the way that he coaches, I don't think you can beat that anywhere else in this league. And that's not a knock against like Mac Jansen or anybody else who coaches in this league. But what Brant has created here in Binghamton is something so special. And I think you're not going to find that anywhere else. And I truly do believe that. And again, nothing against Mac Jansen or any other team in this league. They all have, I feel like they all have their certain cliques and, the way that they handle players and certain players going there. I've talked about that before. But I also know that loyalty is something that Brant talks about very highly.
A lot.
And I don't want to say that what is happening is disloyal, because I don't think that's really the correct word for it. But it's very hard to kind of look at the situation and completely be okay with everything going on. And I think that's completely okay.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to be, upset or frustrated and happy. Like I feel very mixed emotions about it. Like again, nothing against the Shankars, nothing against Tyson, nothing against Mac Jansen, but it does kind of hurt that like all of this happened, and especially after like the run that Binghamton has had. And then, to kind of hear some of the stuff like, well, Tyson doesn't want to come back. He wants to move on. So it's definitely been an interesting offseason. And I think Binghamton did the right thing by announcing it. But I think the second that Mid-South announced signing Zach, that the majority of the Binghamton fans could kind of put it together that we were probably losing Jacob as well. I think that's kind of the feeling that's been happening, and everybody's been kind of like wondering, like, when is it going to happen? It wasn't so much a if it was going to happen, it was a when. Mm-hmm. So I think the initial shell shock kind of happened when they announced Zach. So I don't think it was too much of a shock to hear that Jacob was moving on, but I also think to not only for Binghamton to announce that they did the trade with Jacob, but also to announce after the fact that Brant is coming back, I think kind of helped settle the fan base a little bit. Cause I know everybody's been talking about wanting, Brant coming back and when he was going to make a decision. And I know that you and I had talked, and every week it was like, oh, well, we should find out by the end of this week. And I'm like, I feel like that's been, for like 2 months now, I feel like that was, well, we should find out at the end of this week. Well, we should find out at the end of this week. Well, by the end of next week, he should know. And by the end of the next week, he should know. And it just felt like it's been going on for so long. And I'm like, oh, like he just needs to hurry up and sign again. Cause me being kind of selfish, I didn't want him to leave. I do understand him, trying to get out there. And I do think he 100% deserves that. But at the same time, I love everything that he's done here in Binghamton. And of course I don't want to lose that.
Right. I want to make this 100% clear again. I want to make sure that the Shankars who I know are listening, and thank you very much, Gory and Jane, for always listening. And even Jacob, I know he listens to the show as well. This isn't directed towards you guys specifically, but I want to say that Brant Sherwood was put into a horrible situation. He had to trade a player away that he didn't want to trade away, that he thinks is a very good player and could do very good things, even at a more increased responsibility level for Jacob if he stayed here in Binghamton, right? He wouldn't be playing on the third line. He'd probably be on the second or the first line. He would be a big part of the success of the Binghamton Black Bears. But Brant Sherwood was put in a very bad situation or a horrible situation or a tough situation. He had to trade the player away. And unfortunately, optic-wise, it looks horrible that he gets nothing in return except for an agreement from the Mid-South Monarchs that they will present them 6 players in the future before the first week of November, and he gets to pick one of those guys. And we don't know what those guys are going to be. And there's a possibility that Brant just passes on it because
it's Brant Sherwood.
It's Brant Sherwood, and he doesn't pick guys from other teams usually in trades. And when he did, Tyson Skinner came in and screwed up the shutout streak that we had going, right? So even though he won that game and he only gave up one goal, still. And 2 weeks later, he's gone. He's off the team because Connor McAnanima came back. And it's like, again, Brant doesn't like to make trades within this league, but he's kind of forced to do one here. And I don't want people to think, oh, well, Andreas had everything to do with this. Andreas had nothing to do with this. He doesn't do anything with the players except for maybe talk to one or two if he needs to. If a coach in his now 3-team coaching, organization needs to talk to, Andreas, he'll obviously talk to him. He works with high-end sports clients all the time in his other day job that he does. Because it's what he does, so he can talk to players and make them feel better or like something or give them something that they might need or whatever. Andreas is very good at that, but Andreas has nothing to do with this. This was Brant Sherwood and Mac Jansen having to strike a deal together. And I want to make this clear. This is the part that is very important. The Black Bears didn't benefit from this trade at all, except for one small detail. And it's a small detail that me and Taylor were talking about a little bit off air. If you don't trade Jacob because you think, wow, he's the next big thing, his heart is not going to be in it. So they had to trade him. They had to let him go to go play with his brother and to go play with Tyson down there because his heart probably wouldn't be in it as much. But the Black Bears, I want all the people out there. If you're a Black Bears hater and you listen to our show just to try to come up with ammunition against the Black Bears, which is absolutely fine. Thank you for listening to the Power Play Post Show. We really do appreciate it. Even if you don't like us, the Black Bears don't benefit from this trade at all. Correct?
Yeah, 100%. And to kind of jump back on the Andreas thing, because I know I had seen a comment somewhere, and I'm not exactly sure where. It could have been on the Uncensored. It could have been on Mid-South Post. And I know this person, I'm pretty sure they're a Watertown fan. I know they're not a Black Bear fan. They've always hated the Black Bears. I know that much. Yeah. But they had made a comment talking about how all of the money and all the focus from Andreas was going to go to Mid-South. And I feel like it just needs to be emphasized that not only does Brant mention it, but Andreas himself, when he did the interview here on the Power Play Post Show, he is such a hands-off
owner.
Hands-off owner that's part of the reason that they took some of the support staff in Binghamton and took it to Mid-South. Because we have such a success here in Binghamton and how we run things and how things are done, that he plucked a couple guys from here to get things started down there. And I know a couple of guys are staying down there, and that's kind of where they're going to be.
I think just one. Just Cole's going to stay down there. All of our regular staff is coming back to Binghamton. So
okay, so there you go. So he plucked some guys from up here to get them started down there to help them get things running,
right?
Because of what he's done here in Binghamton, and he's been such a hands-off owner. He's not even here for some of the games or most of the games. He's so busy doing all these other things, and not even just in hockey, all the other things that he does, that I and I don't want to say this to be mean, but his focus isn't on what's happening during these games.
Yeah.
It's not. He's not paying attention to who's signing who or who's getting what player or what Brant is doing or what, Mac Jansen's doing or what's going on in Baton Rouge. He's not. He's not throwing money to one team and not the other team. That's not at all what's happening. No. Andreas is a great, wonderful owner. And I think he's probably one of the few guys that I truly think can own several teams and all of them can be successful. Mm-hmm. And I think that's great for Baton Rouge, especially because I think they kind of needed, a little bit of a push to kind of get them on a great streak. So I truly think, like, all in all, this could be a great thing for the league. And he does so much with his life that it's not, he's just,
concentrating
he
on
gave them
the Black Bears. Yeah. No, I totally understand.
I think it just needed to be emphasized because I feel like that's kind of going to be the theme here, especially if, God forbid, we go into the first game of the season, we, for some reason, lose to the Watertown Wolves and Mid-South wins their first game. I know all the comments are going to be talking about how Andreas is only focusing on Mid-South, and that's going to be the run of the mill for the entire season.
Well,
that's what they want to want.
Well, we're not going to lose.
Run with that.
We're not losing that first game, Taylor. We're not. We can't.
You only needed them to win one. I mean, we gave you one win.
Well, no,
Like, I'm not saying they're going to lose.
It's banner raising ceremony night. You're going to have a packed house. You got to win that game. It doesn't matter. You have to win it. All right. I know there's more of this that we want to talk about after the Brant Sherwood interview. So we're going to get going into this the rest of the show. All right. Before we drop the puck on the rest of this episode of the Power Play Post Show, we have a few quick things we want to remind everyone about.
First off, if you're listening to us right now, make sure you're subscribed. The Power Play Post Show is available on all your favorite podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Just search Power Play Post Show, hit subscribe, and make sure you never miss an episode of the show.
All right. We also want you to be a part of the conversation. Join our Facebook community by searching Power Play Post Show and become part of the growing hockey family that follows the show. Like our posts, comment your thoughts, share episodes with fellow fans, and let us know what you think, because this show is built around you, the fans.
And if you're looking for everything Binghamton hockey, make sure you visit binghamtonhockey.net. It's your home for the Black Bears stats, history records, team information, and everything happening around Binghamton hockey.
And of course, we have another great episode lined up for you here tonight. We'll bring you the latest Binghamton Black Bears news, which we've already talked about, some of it, player updates, interviews, including, of course, tonight's interview with Brant Sherwood, and plenty of hockey conversation.
So whether you're listening on your way to work, at the rink, or just relaxing at home, thanks for being a part of our Power Play Post Show. Season 16 is underway, and we're excited to have you along for the ride.
All right. Now, let's get going on this episode, which is going to transition right now into our interview with Brant Sherwood. So we'll be right back right after this with Brant Sherwood right here on the Power Play Post Show.
Hi, this is Don Biggs from the 92-93 Binghamton Rangers. Hi, this is Brandon Buczynski.
This is Grady Wittenberg, the voice of the Binghamton Senators, and you're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
Here is another Power Play Post Show interview exclusive with Bob Howard.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. This is a very special guest, and he's been a common guest here on the Power Play Post Show, and we're very excited to have him back in Binghamton and have him back here on the Power Play Post Show, as always. And he comes to us from the Binghamton Black Bears. He is their head coach and basically in charge of everything talent-wise. He is Brant Sherwood. Brant, welcome back to the show. Congratulations on 3 championships, re-signing here with Binghamton. We'll talk a little bit about your future in just a few minutes, but welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Bob. Pleasure to be back. Happy to be, I think it's the first guest of the season.
Yeah, season 16, episode number 1, and you are the first guest, but it worked out perfectly last week. Obviously, it was announced that you were going to come back to the Binghamton Black Bears as the head coach. I'm guessing John Quenneville will be your associate head coach as well. Let's talk a little bit about the obvious, which is, okay, you had opportunities in the ECHL and the SPHL, but ultimately, best for you, you came back to Binghamton. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think kind of first and foremost is it's tough for me to leave Binghamton. It's a special place to my heart, and it's where I got my first head coaching start. So there's definitely some loyalty there, and I'm treated very well. And those are kind of the main things that, keep me coming back, and also being close to Philadelphia, where my wife and I reside. So yeah, those are contributing factors to always coming back, but it's ultimately being able to run the locker room how I want to run it, and how we keep things professional, and kind of no influence on roster decisions or anything like that. It's my own, and I take great pride in it. And I know John Quenneville does as well. So we like the model we have, and it's kind of hard to replicate that in other places. So, I mean, obviously I would love to go to the East Coast. I actually didn't get any official offers. I was in running for a couple places as a head coach, one as an assistant coach, and I ended up getting ousted, and they went with someone else. But it's always valuable getting those experiences and going through the interview process. And I did it the year before with Reading and Maine. This year with Charleston or South Carolina Stingrays, and Greenville as well. But I also had an opportunity to go to the SP. I've had opportunities in the past to go to the SP, but just didn't find the grass was greener and in those situations. I feel like at least our organization, we are very much on par with the Southern Professional Hockey League. And it's tough. It's really got to be something good for me to, move in another direction.
Let me ask you a hard question here. Does that disappoint you at all?
Yeah, it does. But at the same time, it makes me feel grateful for, having Binghamton kind of in my back pocket, and Andreas allowing me to pursue these opportunities. So I'm very thankful for the situation that I'm in. And but obviously, it's definitely disheartening. Being told you're not wanted, and you feel like you're doing everything you possibly can, but at the same time, I kind of respect some of the decisions these East Coast teams make. Like, for example, South Carolina, they hired a great coach in Jesse Kalecki and a great associate coach in Corey Melkert. And I kind of tip the hat, like, if I was in, their hockey operations shoes, I probably would have went with those guys. It's a risky hire on their part to grab a coach from the Federal Hockey League, and I kind of understand that. And maybe they want to see more experience. Maybe they want to see me in an AC position first, and I can totally respect that and understand it. I just think that guys that worked with me, ownership, they see it. Players that worked with me, they see it, and it's hard for them to wrap their minds around it as far as like, oh, why isn't he moving up and stuff like that. But ultimately, it helps me push forward and makes me just want to win again and kind of prove people wrong. I've always been an underdog, whether it was playing, coaching, whatever it might be. So sometimes it takes a little bit longer than most people.
I remember when you told me when you didn't get the head coaching job, and I remember exactly what I said to you, which was they don't know what they're missing, because they are missing out on someone who I think is very special. Now, the one thing that I think is good for you coming back to Binghamton, and a lot of player movement, a lot of players gone this upcoming season, you get to do what you do so very good, probably maybe almost as good as actually putting the X's and the O's on the ice, which is recruiting and bringing in new talent, finding them, talking to them, finding out if they're good guys first type of that's a type of situation, and bringing them in here and developing them. That's almost your best attribute at this point that we can see is your recruiting and all the guys that you've brought into this league, brought into this team, won championships with, but you get to come back and do that again.
No, I appreciate it. As Q would say, that the talent acquisition is off the charts in Binghamton, and we tend to bring in some pretty good young guys. You look at Dominic Tomei, you look at Jacob Shankar, you look at Austin Durazio, and kind of what they've done in their first seasons. You could tell they get better throughout the year, and I'm happy to see two of those three move up and get an opportunity at a higher level. So people have got to remember it's a development league, and you need turnover. Yeah, we don't like losing a lot of guys, but when you kind of go on this run of 3 years, guys end up moving on, whether they get a job like Dan Stone, Kyle Steffen, Dan Weber, or maybe it's just time as far as hanging them up, or you lose guys in expansion draft, or you trade a guy to go play with his brother and look out for their best interests, stuff like that. It's like
that's tough. Let's talk about Jacob for a second, and I want people to understand. And when I wrote about it, I said this was a very tough decision for you, because if this was the NHL, they're not looking at, oh, well, your brother plays for the team, we're going to trade you there. This is single A hockey, and in single A hockey, you do have to look out sometimes for the best interest of the player, in sometimes which might not be the best interest for the team. That's a hard decision. Taylor and I have said multiple times on this show, we would never want your job because you have the hard decisions. But you had to think about the player first. Jacob is a great guy. You like him. I like him. He's a good player. I think he could become a very complete type of player on the ice with the right tutelage. And he was definitely getting through that. I mean, he had the one injury, which held him back for a couple months. But you had to make the decision, do I trade him and maybe not get anything? You might look at the list of players that you could potentially trade for or get back in November and decide, no thanks, right? Or you might get somebody back. You normally don't take in recycled players from the FPHL. This was a hard decision, but maybe the right one, even though it doesn't look great for Binghamton fans or maybe Binghamton in general.
Yeah, it was a favor to Shanks. That's the best way I could put it. There was no influence from ownership. Andreas has nothing to do with these trades or anything like that. That was all my decision, and it's what Shanks wants, and he wants to go play with his brother, and he wants to play with Tyson, and I respect that, and I'm just never going to hold a guy back. If you don't want to play in Binghamton, by all means, you can go test it out. And I do wish those guys nothing but the best, but there's no better place to play in this league. That's my opinion. And I think a lot of the players feel the same, but if you want to go somewhere else, I can do that for you, and I'll just go find new talent, and hopefully they appreciate it like those guys did as well. But I get that side of things as far as, having an opportunity to play with your brother. And I think Shank said it to us at the end of the year in our exit meeting. Mm-hmm. So we were well prepared for this. And, Q was on board with that as well. Like, he had a couple chances to play with his brothers, and it's pretty special. Now, would I have liked them, maybe just played in Binghamton? That would have been nice, but it's A-okay, and we have some really good talent coming in. So I'm really excited about this upcoming season.
When you talk about playing here in Binghamton and some players knowing how great it is to play here in Binghamton, I think of two people. I think of Tyson and I think of Gavin Yates. And I think that those two guys stayed here for all 5 years. Both came in at different parts of year one and then made it through year 5. We've talked about Tyson just a little bit, but let's talk a little bit about Gavin Yates, right? Because I thought he was done at the end of year 4, right? And boom, he decides to come back. And last year, he still had one of his best years. And by the way, he was one of the guys you put on the third line, even though he'd probably never really played there that much, because of the talent was so rich on the team last year. Talk to me a little. I know you've talked to me about Gavin before, but I really do like to hear about the relationship you have with Gavin, because he's one of the few guys that you kept from previous administrations here in Binghamton. And talk a little bit about Gavin. And let me ask you this question. I'm going to put you on the spot. Okay. I want you to talk about him, but I also want to know, do you want Gavin back this upcoming season?
Hell yeah. He's the best puck transporter in the league. The guy gains zones like no other. And also just a great guy to have in your room. He knows how to kind of balance the fun and work and, chirp guys at the right moments. He's got some of the best one-liners I've ever heard. So it's truly a pleasure just having him in our locker room and having a veteran like that is so humble and has so many accolades and has zero ego whatsoever. I know I've told the story on here where I was a little hesitant to tell Yater that he is, going to be playing with Stefan and Nick Swain on the third line. And that's, what a detrimental, outcome. But he was smiling and, told me he loved playing with those two. And it's that acceptance of blooming where you're planted and knowing what's best for the team right now. And I think we'll always have 3 first lines, as I say. Obviously it's written up on the board. You got your first, second, third line. But what I tell to all my recruits on the phone is, hey, 3 lines is better than 4 lines, and you'll get a lot more playing time than you got in college or in juniors. It's a matter of getting on the special teams. And if you're on the third line, but you're on one of the power plays, you're on one of the PKs, you're getting those minutes. And obviously Gavin has a realistic view, and he's definitely a power play guy. He always gives me crap because he's 100% on the PK, and he'll even say it on the bench. Why don't I get a chance at this, man? I'm 100%. So it's those are the type of moments that you love having Yates. Is he's able to lighten up the room and make it so much fun. So. It's weird you're asking about, because I was talking to him this morning, and I'm kind of working on his dad, Dennis. They're out on the golf course, and hopefully Dennis can get in his ear too. But yeah, I think he's going to come back, but he's a little undecided, and that goes for a couple other returners. But for the most part, I think you're going to see in the next month or so a lot of these guys wanting to come back, because it's really a tough place to leave, and they get treated so well, and honestly just have a ton of fun and enjoy each other's company. So yeah, hopefully we can run it back again with Yater.
Even though you've now signed 10 rookies, you've signed 3 returners already. Chicho Laughlin coming back for his second year, but then also 98 points and 97 points between Bondarenko and CJ Stubbs. Was it easy? Was it difficult to talk those two into coming back? Because they had such great years last year. And I got to be honest with you, when I was doing the interview with CJ Stubbs, as he was driving all the way home, he said, we could talk for the next 20 hours here on the show because
some hours on his trip.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to say I was surprised, but I had a thought in my mind. All right, I think CJ's done after the conversation I had. Well, because me, I talk before we interview, we talk after the interview with all the players. It's just what we do, and I get a feeling sometimes, and then boom, he's back. Bondarenko's back. Was it easy to get these two to sign up?
It honestly wasn't that hard, and I think it's partly due to these guys have loyalty. They love playing in Binghamton. I think they really enjoy playing for myself and Q, and I just love those guys, and I think they love playing here. And I think they've had some of their most enjoyable seasons with the Black Bears, and I do think they get better with us too. There's a difference between the SP and Fed, and but as far as their game, I think it's at the peak right now. They're really in their prime, and Bondo said to me, he's like, he thought he got a lot better this year, and a lot of it has to do with the coaching and our accessibility to our facility, being able to use it as much as we can and take advantage of our ice and everything we have to offer in our locker room. Like it's a perfect place for guys to, work on their craft and have everything they need to do so. So they're, in my opinion, their performance goes up as the season goes on. So yeah, I didn't really think it was that hard. They're super low maintenance guys. They get it. They've been in other places. They've seen it in other places. And I think they know that, it really doesn't get much better than this place. To have the fan base we have, to have the arena we have, to have the ownership we got, the coaching staff, our equipment managers, like our athletic trainers, our front office, all the way down. It's just everything's in place for these guys. The community that backs us up and gives us, deals around town, whether it's a bar tab after a home game, whether it's a cheap meal over at Alexander's, whether it's Mike Shera, helping these boys with these cars. So it takes a while to build that up. And when you got it, it's hard to replicate. And I'm just happy these guys appreciate it and so thankful to have Stubbsy and Bondo back. It's a lot of points on the board. It's 200-point production just between those two, basically.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about, give me 3 of the rookies that I know you're excited about having them all come in, but 3 guys that we should be looking for in camp.
Man, that's tough. I think we got some really good talent up front that, you've recently seen sign with Lepetre. I hope I'm saying that right. Cool again. Mitchell's really good down the middle. Moran's really good down the middle. The Division III kid, Nick, I think it's Cyprian. These are really talented guys and they're hard to find. And also Ludo Tardif, these are guys that have either, had success at NCAA Division III or in juniors. And if you look at where they come from in juniors, it's, NCDC, it's CJHL. So they have great production out of tier 2 juniors, but I can't forget the 2 goalies we picked up. You have a goalie with a over 900 save percentage in Division III that was seeing 40+ shots a night.
Yep.
You have another Russian goaltender that had a save percentage above 900 as well in the North American Hockey League. So these are really talented players, and it's just, we're not going into it blind. There's specifics we're looking for, and it's being talented on the ice but having good character off the ice as well. And typically it's worked in the past, and there's been a little bit more turnover than normal, but I also think Binghamton has been spoiled in a sense that we've had guys stick around for 3 to 5 years, and that's tough to find in single A. These guys are just doing it for the love of the game. And, but it's time to kind of, as you're saying, reload. We've been reloading, and, I'm excited about, this year. I think we'll be able to push the pace a little bit more with older guys. You kind of, you got to ride that line. They're a little bit more banged up, but having some youth in our room, it's going to energize this group. And I think we're going to be a fast bunch and high paced and, something that the community is proud of once again.
Okay. Let me ask you a couple of quick questions. Talk to me a little bit about the conferences and the divisions. Do you like them going to conferences and having the smaller divisions? To me, it feels a lot like the NFL, where you have the smaller divisions and makes things pretty tight between those teams that you play against. Your thoughts on the 2 conference and 4 division setup?
I like it. It's it kind of mimics the NHL a little bit.
Yep.
I would probably critique some of it, I don't understand why Watertown isn't in our division, but as going into this year, I think or either the top division or the second. I think the other division that kind of competes as far as difficulty goes is Mid-South division.
Mm-hmm.
That's like there's going to be some battles every night, but I overall like the variety. I think everyone's happy. We're not, half our schedule isn't Danbury, Watertown, so the fan base will get to see some new teams at home and be able to watch some games on the road and a different broadcast and just kind of have that diversity throughout our schedule. So I'm a fan of it. I think, this year for us especially is going to be a little bit more competitive. You might see a couple more L's on the board, but maybe it's just preparing us down the stretch a little bit more. And I think I've said this every year is like, it's hard to match that the last year, and we tend to do so. So I just try to go into each season realistic, but there's some really good teams out there, and there's going to be some tight competition.
Well, talking about the schedule a little bit, you obviously have Motor City back on the schedule. They're going to have Connor Smith, Dakota Bond returning back to Binghamton. So you're going to face off against two former guys who helped win championships here in Binghamton. Talk a little bit about seeing guys like that. And then, of course, the Mid-South guys coming in and playing against against their former team.
Yeah. So I'm happy to see Bonner and Smitty, back in the game and, getting there. I'm pretty sure they're going to be weekend guys. They are, full-time workers, and they gotta provide. I know Smitty's got to pay his mortgage, and Bonner's got a mouth to feed. So, I don't know if it's going to be the main priority for these guys, but no, they're talented players, and they're gonna really help out Motor City and, make them competitive as well. Just like a lot of guys that, have come and gone from Binghamton, they end up being, superstars on another team. I did, talk to them both. I helped out Motor City with Bonner. I gave Nick Field his number, and Bonner was very, courteous to kind of check in with me first. And I really appreciate that on his part. Smitty just went out and signed with him, so we're going to have a target on him. No, I'm just kidding. I love Smitty, and I can't wait to give him a wink across the way. And we're, very thankful for everything they've done for the Black Bears. They helped us win a couple of championships, and it was a real pleasure just, working with those two. And then, obviously there's a circle date when Mid-South comes to town. We want to beat up on those boys and, let them know, hey, the grass ain't greener down there. You're going to miss playing here. And, our fan base they'll have fun with that for sure, and hopefully get a couple of video tributes on the board. It might be a longer game with everything that we gotta put out there.
Absolutely. But Brant, the schedule has the Blue Ridge Bobcats back on it, which I said should have been on there last year, regardless of whatever heat was going on between the two teams and the two head coaches, maybe. I don't know. All right. Yeah. We'll leave it at that. But they should have been on the schedule, because you don't take a team off the schedule where there's heat like that, because you need to make sure that everything is okay when you get back on the ice again. So the Blue Ridge Bobcats are back on the schedule 5 times, only once here in Binghamton, 4 more times down in Wytheville, Virginia. Your thoughts about seeing them back on the schedule?
I think time heals everything, but I'd like to just nip it in the bud right away. Yeah. And we should have been playing those guys last year. I think they're a good team, and, it's another tough opponent in our division, and Zemi, he does a great job with those guys. And I think he gets the most out of them. So, it's going to be some good games. I wish they were playing here, half and half, but, we'll go down there and do our business and really, really looking forward to it. I'm sure their fan base, is really looking forward to it and going to get heckled quite a bit. But,
No.
we're a little bit weathered now, and we're used to it. But it's kind of funny. Zemi and I, we didn't really talk for a while after that. But then as soon as they lost to Port Huron, he sent me a message saying, there's no team he hates more than them. This is paraphrased, but he had some not so nice words for Port Huron, and kind of made me chuckle a little bit, because it's like, they're a tough opponent. Like, they don't really mess around, and a lot of shenanigans over there. So I think we found some common ground there that things are going to be professional, but ultimately I do think that weekend got carried away, and a lot of it was to do with the officiating. Like, I don't think they controlled the game the right way, and I got no problem saying that. I think the officiating's, been pretty stellar this past year, and it's gotten better each year, and I think Paul Jean's doing a great job. But yeah, that weekend, drink a coffee. Like, did you not see what was going on? Or all 5 of our players get jumped off the draw, and then somehow we're on a 5-on-3 after that, and I'm getting kicked out and stuff like that. So, there's some circumstances that really, fluster teams, fluster coaches, players, stuff like that. But no, we're looking forward to playing them. I think just getting away from the Danbury Watertown thing, it's a great thing for the organization overall. Agreed.
Lastly, before I let you go, not that we won't probably talk again by time camp rolls around, let's talk a little bit about the point system going from the 3-2-1 to the 2-1-0. Can you talk about why that's better for the league necessarily, more so than any one given team, but just overall better for the league?
I'll tell you, I really don't care about the point system.
Fair enough.
I'm focused on, making this team better, recruiting good players, stuff like that. But I will say that anything that mimics the NHL is probably a good thing, and it makes things a little bit more easier to understand, knowing that they're doing it at that level. So, honestly, no opinion on it. They could make it a 4 or 5 point system. We're just focused on winning one game at a time, and that's just how we go about our business. And it's just one thing at a time. Take care of the little things, win a practice on a Tuesday, stuff like that. So we don't really look too much into that, but I know we got some really good points off some shootout wins. So maybe, I don't know I think it's still 2 points. So
it is. 2 for a win all the way across the board. And then obviously 1 for an overtime loss or a shootout loss.
Yeah.
But no extra point if you win in regulation, essentially.
Nice. Yeah. Maybe it hurts us. I don't know. I think we won a ton of regulation games, but then there's years where we lost OT games. And then this past year, we won a lot of shootouts. Shout out to Nick Swain. He was stellar in the shootouts. And he actually, we did a little thing in practice where I was talking to him the other day. And, he ended up, we put in like a little money pot for whoever wins the shootout each week. And he ended up, making some decent coin off that with all the, players' money getting in a pool and, getting $20 off Q&I if you won the shootout. So, he really took advantage of that and won us a few games, I believe. Mac Jansen was also a good shootout guy.
He was.
Too.
Nick Swain, he could turn that thing on sometimes, right, Brant? I mean, like he had the 4 goal game. He also had the one game where he double deked the goaltender to score the goal. What is it about someone like a Nick Swain where grinder on the 3rd line, maybe at a higher level, he's on the 4th line, but bam, has that skill that he can turn on every once in a while?
Well, Nick Swain would have been, what he could have been on one of the top lines if, he didn't have a secondary job. And There's some days like he couldn't make it, or, Friday morning. I know Friday mornings he typically wasn't there. So there's a little mindfulness on my part to make sure, guys that are putting in the work during the week, they kind of get first dibs and stuff. After we kind of moved on from Oliveri, we kind of got away from the weekend guy. Now I do think there's opportunity for guys like Swain or guys like Weebs to kind of fill in and help us out when need be, and hopefully we can get them 15 games to qualify for playoffs. But it is awesome having Swainer. I think his teammates really know. I know Q knows as well that he's such a talented kid. He can score from the top of the circles. He can, dangle inside a telephone booth. He makes the players better around him. The only thing that halted him at the beginning of the year was his conditioning. And once we got that down, and, by December, he's having a 4-goal night. He's having guys slip out of their boots and having these top 10 Sports Center reels. So we love Swainer, and Swainer's a lot of guys come to me and they want to play with Swainer. So that wow. Says a lot about him. And hopefully we see him in a few games, but he's a big private equity guy now, so he's making the big bucks. So wow. I don't think we can afford him. But yeah, it's another guy in the room that he didn't care where he was at in the lineup. He was just happy to be a part of the best team and just having fun with his buddies each day.
Tell you what, when he would walk off the ice after a game where he scored 4 goals or 3 goals or whatever it might have been, or he had that highlight reel goal, the smile on that kid's face was from East Coast to West Coast. It was so big. When they had a bad game and they lost, you could see it on Swain's face, right? He's one of those guys where you see the emotion, good or bad. And it was just amazing. Brant, thank you so very much for obviously taking the time to talk to me today. Welcome back. We obviously love you, especially here on the Power Play Post Show. Glad you were our, episode number 1 for season 16 of the show. Excited for you. Cannot wait until you get into camp. I'm not trying to rush the summer away like everybody thinks I am. I know everyone thinks I am, but enjoy the rest of your summer. You and I will obviously chat, and we'll see you at camp.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, and we love you too, Bob. You're a big part of our locker room, and I'm honestly having some recruits listen to your show to get a different perspective, and it's been super helpful for our team. There's a togetherness that, comes from it. You find out something new about a player that you might not know, and, it gets brought up in the locker room the next day. So we love you too. We love the Power Play Post Show, and it's been such a pleasure working with you, and can't wait to see you in training camp. I'll let you know what day to come down.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe I'll bring some skates and no, I'm just kidding. I'm not getting on the ice with you guys.
We can give you a PTO, Bob.
Oh gosh, no. I will get my ass wrecked really bad. So that's not good. Especially if Dominic Tomei is there, he'll hit me. I know he wants to hit me, but I love Dom.
Right.
I love Dom.
I'll give you a big hug instead.
Yeah, probably so. Brant, thank you very much, and we'll talk to you real soon.
Awesome. Have a good one.
All right. And we'll be right back right after this, right here on the Power Play Post Show.
If you're a Binghamton hockey fan, then you need to check out binghamtonhockey.net for all your news, stats, information, the Binghamton Hockey Hall of Fame, top 10 lists, profiles, and so much more. That's binghamtonhockey.net. You're listening to the Power Play Post Show.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. While that interview was going on, I think Taylor was having a meltdown. But we're just going to leave it at that. Welcome back, everybody, to the Power Play Post Show. Taylor, let's talk a little bit about that interview with Brant Sherwood. I'm sure you took some notes. Whenever I give you the task of listening to an interview before it's actually aired, you usually take some notes. So give me your reaction of the interview with Brant Sherwood.
Well, I mean, I said earlier that there isn't really much he says that kind of surprises me or like I'm taken back, and it's something that I didn't expect him to say that. He handled the Shankar trade kind of how I figured it was going to go down, and I had told you earlier when we talked about the Jacob thing that I didn't really want to talk too much about, because I agree with what Brant did. When you have a player who wants to go play with his brother and somebody he grew up with, it's very hard to look at him and be like, yeah, but you could be a first line guy here and you play so well and you're a quality player and, you have what you have here in Binghamton. But he still he wanted to go with them and wanted to be with them. It's very hard for a coach to say, well, I'm not going to send you.
Right.
When, Brant's not going to do that to a player. He's not going to keep a player, in spite of them wanting to leave. He's going to let a player do what they want to do. And I think that speaks volumes of the kind of person that Brant is. Mm-hmm. You think back of, Connor McNanama wanting to go to Peoria. I'm sure that was a very hard thing for Brant to kind of come to terms with. But in the end, he's going to do what's best for his players and what they want to do and what's going to help them, further their career. So when he talks about, trading away, Shankar and, you and I have kind of talked about what do we get on the other end of that. I'm not too worried about what we get on the other end of that. And I get why you're very focused on that because it's a terrible trade. We get practically nothing in return, but
we do get nothing.
The season hasn't started yet. And I know the kind of players that Brant brings in and, I'm sure as we, get further down the line here and we get closer to that first game of the season and, the first day of camp, I guess I should say that we're going to see a couple more returning guys. And mm-hmm. I'm sure some of them might even shock us. I'm sure there's a couple where we're going to hear that they've, moved on, they've retired, they're, whatever happens. I'm sure we're not going to be shocked by, some of the guys who don't come back and some of the guys who even do come back. I don't see us being surprised by, that type of thing. And as far as like Brant bringing in so many rookies, that's something that doesn't shock me either. We kind of, I don't know if we talked about it in a little group chat we have or not, but Brant doesn't like to use, and this sounds like a bad term, and I don't mean it in a bad way,
right,
but recycled players.
Yeah.
He picked a couple guys who have played in the ECHL and the SPHL, like Stubbs and,
mm-hmm.
Sargis and Bondo, but these are guys that he also played with and he knows very well and that type of thing. But as far as like, recycled fed players, like guys who have been in this league for a long time,
he got rid of those
teams, and
he got rid of those.
And a lot of those guys are, moving on with their lives or they're starting to slow down we said that about Gavin 4 years ago, but he still surprises us.
I think Gavin and Tyson initially and Austin Thompson were the guys that bought into the system, and that's why they stayed. Whereas when you look at Kyle Powell, he was moved out, and there were other guys here in Binghamton that were moved out that didn't fit into Brant Sherwood's system. So, Gavin and Tyson and Austin Thompson, they were the exception to the rule, right? Where all these other guys, they were moved on. They were moved. They were let go. They were released.
Jamie Bussell and Josh Newberg, Nick Sutcliffe.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's a former Binghamton Black Bear on every single team in the FPHL. But I truly think that.
But I truly do think that there was only a few guys. So he does not like to. That's why I feel like the Jacob Shankar trade is bad for Binghamton, good for Mid-South. And there's no other way to look at it for Brant Sherwood other than I'm going to have the people that want to be here this upcoming year, right? And this is going to be hard for people to understand and maybe even hear. But if you don't want to play in Binghamton, then go. Don't come here just out of some weird fantasy that you still need to play. If you don't want to be in Binghamton and play for Brant Sherwood, don't be here. And guess what? We already got our answer from some people, and that's okay. It's okay. But you know what? I'm also thinking about the Binghamton Black Bears. I'm also thinking about Binghamton hockey. I'm also thinking about the legacy of Brant Sherwood and the Binghamton Black Bears. And for me, I want people here that want to be here, right? I want guys. Listen, Dan Weber has moved to Binghamton, New York. He may not play full time, and Brant Sherwood talked about this in the interview. He's hoping to get him for 15 games and maybe even Nick Swain for 15 games, right? Because Nick Swain's got a big-time money-making job. He's probably making more money than Brant Sherwood is right now. That's how good of a job that Nick Swain has got, right? But my point is, though, is like Dan Weber has no problem. Yes, he has a beautiful fiance who is obviously from here, and he's moved here. He's got a good job here. But Brant is trying to convince him to, come maybe play 15 games so he could be eligible for the playoffs and whatnot. But Brant wants people that want to be here. I think that's number one. Loyalty matters to him.
Yeah, I think it's really evident to see, and especially, bringing up Nick Swain is a great example, and even Scott Romaker and, everybody else who had a part-time job or was going to school. I mean, he waited on Scott Romaker's for an entire year so he could finish school and then wanted to bring him in. Like he very much puts players, above everything else in what they're doing. And he wants you to further your career, and he wants you to be able to do, get a job and work that job and, get it to a practice if you can. I know that's something that, Nick Swain couldn't always make the practices, and he wasn't always around for practices. And it was very hard to kind of get him back in that groove after summer. And that's one of the things that he talked about in the interview was once you got him kind of back into the conditioning, it was a lot easier. And he started having those 4-goal games and doing all these cool tricks and everything like that everybody was like jaws on the floor and everybody couldn't believe it. And, he got the biggest smile on his face. I think he probably had a bigger smile than Josh Fletcher, and that's saying something because he smiles all the time too. But I just think maybe that's why it's so interesting to me that, some of these guys don't want to be here. And for me, I almost feel like it's not that Jacob didn't want to be here. I think it's just he wanted to be with Tyson and his brother.
I understand.
So
that.
I think if Tyson and Zach were here, I think there'd be no contest and Jacob would be here.
Right.
But I think it wouldn't have mattered if Tyson and Zach were on the same team together anywhere in this league. Even if they were on a Port Huron team. Oof. I think Jacob would still want to play with them. And I'm just, that's the point that I'm trying to get across. I don't think it was necessarily the team, the location, or anything like that. I think it was just, he truly wants to play with his brother and Tyson. And I get that. And I 100% agree with how the team's handled that and what they're doing. It does suck on the receiving end for Binghamton, but you have to do what you have to do. And if you're done being sick at any point. But,
I think I threw up in my mouth like 3 times. Oh, God. Whoa.
But tell me I'm wrong, honestly. I think it wouldn't have mattered what team.
It doesn't. But, again, my focus is Binghamton. And the trade was not, in my eyes, a trade that we won. However.
No, it's not.
We don't want people here that don't want to be here. And at that point, I think Brant Sherwood had no other choice but to have to trade him because you don't want a guy here, no matter if he played hard. I mean, he could have played the hardest he could have ever played. His heart still wouldn't have been with it, right? Because he knew that his brother and Tyson were playing down in Mid-South. Other thoughts about the interview?
I really, because I have told you over and over and over again that I don't think that Brant Sherwood would ever leave unless it was the right condition, I guess would be the right way to put it. And I guess I've been waiting just this entire time for them to announce that he's coming back because there wasn't anything. Because you've talked to me here and there about he's trying for this team. He could go for this team. He has an interview with this team. Right. And to me, none of it sounded like it was something that was the right fit. And granted, I do think he's trying to get his foot in the door, and I think he's getting there. You know, he went from not being seen at all to he had a bunch of interviews, and I think each interview kind of helps you understand more. And, you know, maybe they'll, if they weren't looking at you, kind of tell you why they weren't looking at you, and it can kind of give you, you know, some more steps on, you know, like what you can do to kind of further yourself, and hopefully at the end of this next year, when we win another championship, that they'll look at him and actually be like, you know, this is, you know, you listen to us, like, this is, we have this great opportunity now. But I truly think that for Brant Sherwood to leave what he has here in Binghamton, which he talks about, I think that's something that's very hard. And I think that's also, I think it's hard for some players too.
Yeah.
And, I think that's probably why it's one of the easy selling points, and why not only can Brant recruit people, but it's probably, you know, easy to recruit people to come play here in Binghamton, whether they talk to Brant Sherwood or they talk to fans or they, you know, talk to some of the players who have played here. I'm sure even if you ask players who have played here that no longer like Binghamton or are no longer on the team, they would probably still tell you like about, you know, the fan base, the facility, the ownership, like everything that's still good about it. Because I truly don't think that you can beat that anywhere else in this league. And I do think we're kind of spoiled in that aspect. But I also think that's part of the reason why it's, I think, harder for Brant to leave. Because I think he wants, I feel like he wants the perfect opportunity. And I do think at some point, if he wants to move on, he might have to settle first before he can get to that end goal that he actually wants.
Right. Like being an assistant, coach and not have all the control that he has here. You know, maybe settling is not the right answer, but, you know, accepting less responsibility when you move up to the ECHL by, you know, having, being an assistant coach and having to follow the lead of a head coach, or maybe not having the GM duties. I totally agree with you there. One of the things that was very interesting about the interview was when I asked him if he was disappointed about not getting the job up in ECHL. I didn't expect him to actually answer it the way he did. It almost seems like he became vulnerable for a few seconds in the interview, talking about his disappointment in not getting a job up in ECHL.
Yeah, see, you were surprised. I definitely wasn't.
Really?
And the reason I say that is because the way that you handle the interviews and the way that you talk to these people, and, you know, from Andreas to Brant to the players to whoever you talk, even people from other teams, the way that you conduct yourself and the way that you ask questions, you're not just like, oh, well, are you going to be disappointed, or you're going to come into the season disappointed because you didn't get the coaching job that you wanted and you're stuck here in Binghamton again? That's not how, you know, you present your interview and the way that you discuss things. So I feel like when people talk to you on these interviews, it's so easy to just be open and honest and, you know, talk about the hard things. Because I know that's something that even Q had said, like, you have to ask the hard questions, but you do it in such a manner that it's not so much like the harshness of the question. It's just so much like getting to the truth of it. And I don't think that on any situation Brant wouldn't have been truthful about, you know, his feelings and what has kind of gone on this summer, because it does feel really dragged out in kind of signing him. And I think we've been waiting for it for like ever now. And I feel like, you know, summer's about to end almost. It feels like, you know, kids are starting to go back to school, and it just seems like we're like so close to the beginning of the season already. And we're like, oh, we just announced that, you know, he's coming back. But, yeah, I can't say that I was surprised to hear him say that he was going to be disappointed, but I also think that's a really good thing. I think if he wasn't disappointed, I don't think he would push himself, you know, quite as much. Because if you go, obviously, you're trying to move on. You want to go to the next step. And if you can't get there, it has to be disappointing. There's no way to look at it where that isn't disappointing. You've had so many interviews. You've talked to so many people. You've tried so many different things. You've gotten 3 championships, and everybody's like, well, we're going to hire within the league, or we're going to go with this guy instead. Whatever the situation that ended up happening where he didn't end up with the job that he was initially going for, it has to suck and it has to be frustrating. And to look at it and say anything else that you know, he isn't upset by, you know, not kind of being able to move on, I think would be, it wouldn't work out. And I think kind of having that and knowing that he has built this awesome thing here in Binghamton, and he has the ability to come. It wasn't like we kicked him out of Binghamton and he wasn't allowed to come back. Like, he was screwed. He needed a job. He knew Binghamton was here. He knew that he can come back to Binghamton and still do the thing that he does so well, and still have a home, and still be able to go out and get these, young guys to come into this league and, whoop everybody else's ass and kind of,
yeah,
hopefully get another championship. So I truly think that having that disappointment is going to push him
even harder.
Yes. And I think truthfully it could be a good thing for him. And I think maybe we'll even see some new things out of him this season, which I think would be very interesting, because I don't know if there's much else he could show me where I'd be very shocked. But we went from a coach that was suspended and kicked out of games and fined constantly to we didn't have that this past season, even with all the BS that happened with, certain teams, we still didn't have any of that extra stuff happening.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited to see what goes on this season for him. And I truly hope he ends up where he wants to be, but after this season, and hopefully after another championship, because we're going for 4. I know nobody said we were doing that. And when we did our, the parade and everything, no players kind of ran with that. But I know the fan base is already saying it, and Brant's coming back. We'll have some returning players. Brant is really good at recruiting people. I'm not worried at all.
Good.
We're going for 4.
So that means I know the answer to this question. Are we still reloading or rebuilding with 11 rookies and 3 returners right now at this point?
I think it's easy for fans to see the amount of rookies that we have signed and say that it's a rebuild.
Yeah.
But I think a rebuild is kind of what Mac Jansen's doing.
Yeah.
He has players that he knows, and he's bringing in a bunch of people he doesn't. Where I feel like Brant knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's looking for. And we're still going to have returning players. Like we're still waiting on some guys to finish out their summers and, come back here to Binghamton, their second home basically, and to spend another year with us and still play the game that they love. So it does look like a lot of rookies, and I know that's kind of shocking, but at the same time, that's what Brant does. We don't, pick guys throughout this league and bring them back on our team, even though they've played, 40 years with this team, and he doesn't do that.
No.
Brant likes to handpick his own talent for his team.
I agree. Now, I will say this. I know that there are talks about Dominic Tomei being here this upcoming season. There are talks of Zach Sirota being here for this upcoming season. Obviously Gavin Yates has to make a decision. Does he retire? Does he get, when he gets off the boat at the end of September, does he want to play hockey? Right. So Gavin Yates might be a late decision, but he could potentially come back. We already talked about
Gavin Yates for me.
Yeah.
I don't mean to cut you off, but Gavin Yates to me, I'm like, oh, well, that's such an easy decision because, he's been with us for 5 years. He's done everything you could possibly ask him to do. He's gotten all the awards you could think of. But at the same time, like, if you just love playing hockey and keep saying, oh, well, Gavin's going to slow down. Gavin's going to slow down. He's going to start slowing down.
And then he had his best season.
This season.
He had his best season.
Exactly. So for me, I'm like, oh, well, it's so easy for Gavin to be like, yeah, I'm hanging up the skates. But if he's not ready to hang up the skates, good luck trying to make him.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, Dana, but I mean.
No, exactly. So it is very interesting. Will this be the most difficult season for Brant Sherwood of his career? That's a hard question, but it's a question I think that we should kind of address here a little bit because there's so much expectations from him, and he has to know that he's sitting on a pedestal in Binghamton that is pretty freaking high, right? You didn't just win 1 championship. You didn't just win 2 championships. You won 3 championships. And now you're going back to almost year 1 by saying, I'm going to do this with another 15 or 16 rookies like I did in the first year. That's a lot of pressure, and that could make it very difficult for Brant. Or is it a little bit easier for Brant because he's got John Quinville and he's got all the systems all set in place? He just has to plug these people in.
Yeah, I don't think it's a hard question for me. It might not be his easiest season,
Okay.
I'd probably say that was maybe the second championship, because I feel like Connor McNanama was a different animal that entire season.
Yeah, he was.
But
no, he was. He 100%. Listen, if anyone wants to say, Connor even admitted it here on the show a couple weeks ago, that his best season of his lifetime of playing hockey was that second championship season. He was just outstanding. Now, again, you got to argue the defense was good in front of him. Although I thought our defense this past year was better than even the year. That's why Connor was so important that second championship run, because I think our defense got even better this past season. For the third championship run, our defense was better. I mean, Tomei had 9 one-goal games and 7 shutouts. That's 16 games where he gave up 1 goal or less. That's crazy. But a big part of that is the defense was really, really, really good as well.
Yeah, so I don't know if I could say like he's going to have like a super easy year or anything like that.
Because he's got to plug in the new players.
That's truthfully the second championship was probably his easiest, best, however you want to word it. But I don't think he could have a worse year than probably his first year. And the reason I say that isn't so much of what he did and what happened because he didn't have a first full season. You know, he kind of got thrown in, and, you know, that's got to suck. But the chants were fire Sherwood for quite some time.
Yeah.
So, you know, to go from fire Sherwood to now anytime there's a decision made ever, doesn't matter what the decision is, Tomei gets signed with the rail yard dogs, and everyone goes, trust the process, trust the coach. Brant has instilled such belief in not only his players, but in the fans, that we now went from fire Sherwood to we are going to ride or die whatever decision he makes. We're trusting everything he does. We trust every process, even if it makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
On our end, like the Shankar trade makes no sense on our end. On our end. For Binghamton Black Bears, makes no sense.
Well,
we're still trusting the process.
I'm going to put a little bit of fear into the minds of the fans a little bit. Brent did offer signing me to a PTO and let me come on the ice for training camp. So I'd be a little worried, because somehow, some way, I'd probably make the team somehow. And that would be really bad for everybody involved, because I'd get hit once and probably cry on the bench. But no,
they'd have to have you training with a Q and Sargis for, you know.
Oh God, I would need at least.
That would be so rough.
Quinville, if you're listening to this, if I were to ever put skates back on and get back on the ice, I would need at least a month and a half, maybe 2 months with you in a gym first, exercising, getting myself. I mean, I gotta take off like 30 pounds easily, and get some muscle.
And just think, you need 10 goals before you can have an ice cream.
Well, 10 goals in one game. I definitely won't do that ever. But listen, Brant feels that there's going to be anywhere from 3 to 6 more players that could return. That was, you know, I thought it was a good interview. I thought he opened up, and when he talked about the disappointment, that was interesting. I think it was very interesting the way he talked about Jacob Shankar, very open and honest about that situation. What else can you do? I think he, took my questions about rookies versus returners and then gave us a little bit of information on that. And again, he's going to take these guys. Some of them are really high-skilled guys that maybe were overlooked. Like, listen, I think Connor McNanama was overlooked, right? If a scout, one of the reasons why Connor McNanama is not playing in the AHL or the ECHL right now isn't because of his skill level. It's because someone didn't notice him. Someone didn't scout him. Someone didn't see him. The reason why Alexander Letgoff was playing in the Fed for a season before he went to Montreal and then earned a contract that might get him to play in the AHL this upcoming season, because it's a 2-way contract with him and the Laval Rocket and the whatever the ECHL team is. I think it's the Three Rivers team, right? He's going to play in one of those two. Somebody didn't scout him. Somebody didn't see him, and then they watched a Fed game. So somebody's watching Fed games in the NHL, folks. I'm telling you right now. Simmons,
which is why I think Brant's biggest weakness for this league is his scouting and his recruiting. because I think he would do wonders in higher leagues because of that reason.
Yeah, finding stuff. Yeah, 100%. So I just feel like you have players that have been overlooked, and that's the reason why, in some ways, when they shine the right way, they get looks. I mean, don't let anyone fool you. Connor McAnanima went up to the ECHL. He didn't play in those 4 games, and he sat on the bench, and or he was in the stands for those 4 ECHL games, and he didn't get any playing time. But they now know who he is. They've now seen him. Somebody has seen him, and that's all it takes. And I think eventually it'll happen for Brant Sherwood. And I truly do think that even if it's Legoff who gets a game up in the NHL or you get some games in the AHL, we're seeing a progression now in the Fed that is completely different versus, and honestly, the first show that we were supposed to do, I wanted to talk about all the rules changes and all the points changes and all that stuff that we didn't talk about that because the Black Bears decided to say, oh, you want some time off? Yeah. Beer me. So, but okay. Anything else from the Sherwood interview that you have or no?
No, I think we've covered everything that I had any, notes on.
Okay. All right. Let's get into the latest signing, which is the Black Bears signed Nick Cyprian. I think that's how you pronounce it. We'll figure all these names out as we get closer to the training camp. The Binghamton Black Bears, 3 times Commissioner's Cup champions, are proud to announce the forward Nick Cyprian has signed for the 26-27 season. Nick is the 11th rookie and 9th forward to sign ahead of training camp this fall. Nick is a 24-year-old native of Aledo, Texas, that shoots left-handed. He gained professional experience last season in the SPHL, playing 7 games with the Peoria Rivermen and the Roanoke Rail Yard Dogs. So obviously Brant knows those 2 coaches very well. Obviously talked to him. Prior to turning professional, Cyprian was member of the Chapman University Cougar hockey program for 4 years. At the NCAA D3 level, Cyprian appeared in 105 games, scored 46 goals, and added 76 assists. Cyprian also led the Cougars in total points during his sophomore, junior, and senior seasons. Obviously, he had a very good D3 career, and I know with talking to Brant Sherwood, he's very high on this guy.
Yeah, that's just it. Again, one of the things that shows that Brant Sherwood knows exactly what he's looking for. It's so interesting to me, like how Brant ends up like finding these people, because it's not like, oh, well, they're in their like his backyard and he just knows all these guys. Like they're all over the place, and he's able to find like these really talented guys. The only fear that I ever have about like I feel like every time Brant is like, I think so, like I'm very excited about this guy coming in. And if it's a young rookie, I am always worried that they're too talented and they don't stay in this league. Like we don't get to see them.
Stanko.
Like to me, like Tim Kim.
Or
like,
yeah.
Talked very highly of Tim Kim and then he vanished.
Well,
so that's always my fear when you have these young rookies that come in that, have really good college careers and D3 level and like all that kind of stuff. If they have like good numbers and stuff, I'm always like, ooh, like I try not to get too excited because I'm always so worried that they're not going to be here for very long. Yeah,
no. And I agree with you. Brandon Stanko was the same thing. He came in, played 14 games for the Binghamton Black Bears, and then he went to the SPHL. And we didn't see him again. I know he continued
Which on the plus side to that, it let Connor Smith shine. So, I mean,
I know.
Ups and downs.
Yeah, no, that's the beautiful thing about that. When Brendan Stanko left, Connor Smith blossomed and turned into this amazing player. It was almost like Stanko was a crutch for Connor Smith. And I don't mean that negatively at all. They know each other from freaking playing with Adrian College, right? But then all of a sudden Connor Smith became a better player, which was very interesting. It was interesting on what Brant said about Connor Smith.
I'm not shocked by it. Like, again,
Dakota.
I don't think Brant said anything in this interview that like I was like, oh man, I wish he didn't like. Everything Brant said, I'm pretty sure I 100% agreed with it.
That's fair. But Dakota did call him and say, hey, is it okay if I go to Motor City? And Connor did not ask Brant Sherwood if it was okay. But I know right now. Connor wanted to come back and play for the Black Bears. 2 years ago, when he came back for his ring, he was like, oh, yeah, I think I have the itch to play. Yeah, he was itching to play. So either way.
That's why we tell you, if you want to be done with hockey, don't come get your ring.
Don't come get your ring.
Have them mail it to you. Whatever you got to do it outside the
right.
It's so funny to think about. But I feel like because I don't think Dakota Bond didn't want to play last year. I just think, different circumstances, life happened, they were doing things they needed to do. And, I think he needed that time off type of thing. And obviously playing closer to home just makes it a lot easier. So I feel like his is more like the time frame, him playing here is a lot closer than Connor Smith playing here. Like he was already off for a couple of years. So I feel like he didn't think it was necessary to be like, hey, Brant, if I come back to the league.
Well, speaking of Connor Smith, I hope to have him on the show when we talk again. So I'm going to try to set that up. Connor has agreed to come back onto the show to talk about returning to playing professional hockey, and he will do that. Obviously, just
don't tell him how upset I am that he's part of Motor City now.
Oh, I'm so telling him that he's gonna love it.
You do need to find out if he's gonna try to get the time off to travel out here, because we gotta have him. I don't want to see him in a purple jersey, but I would like to still see him on the ice.
Oh my gosh. If he shows up to the arena, I am making sure that I do not go to the Binghamton side of the corner. I'm going to the Motor City side of the corner, and I'm going to make sure that you and him get a picture together, because I've never seen you fangirl over a player before. I never have. Because
I typically don't.
But you like the way Connor plays.
Jeremy usually does. Like, he usually fangirls pretty hard over certain players. Like Sargis, oh man.
Oh yeah.
If Sargis got in a fight the first game of the season, there would be nothing. Like, he'd buy every Sargis jersey. You probably couldn't even talk to him the rest of the season. Like, he would be on such a high for the entire season. It wouldn't matter if we lost every game after that. Sargis fought.
You know what the funny thing is? Sargis has got this reputation, right, of this big, strong, muscular guy, tough guy, and everything. Oh my God,
but super nice.
He's the sweetest little teddy bear you would ever consider. Like, you wouldn't know it, and it's just like, then you talk to him, and you're like, wow, you're just so nice. Why are you so nice?
So our theory, because we talked about this, he goes, I want a full season out of Sargis. And I was like, well, I have no idea if he's going to come back or not. I have no inkling, or
I have a feeling. I don't know. I have a feeling he's going to.
Talked to him.
I have a feeling.
I would love to, because Jeremy wants a full season out of Sargis. And if Sargis and Zach Sirota both come back and they are on the same line together, and Sirota gets himself into because Sirota's going to do what Sirota does and be the little rat and kind of get in these players' heads, and everybody's always taller than Sirota. Sargis is the big brother to Sirota. I will say that until I'm dead, because Sargis protects him like there's no tomorrow.
Did you just say everyone's taller than Sirota?
Well, maybe not Gulo, but I don't. I think everybody else is.
Oh, Les, I hope you're not listening to this.
We debunked that, I think, this past season. I'm pretty sure Bondarenko is the shortest guy on the team. I think Sirota is like an inch taller than Bondarenko. So I look at that. I'm wrong. But
by the way, did you
plays like Big Brother?
Did you see the video of that Katie Bondarenko posted, I think today, that goes back like 7 years, and it shows Yvonne dancing with him, and she was pregnant with Alexander, and they were dancing. They were doing some sort of TikTok dance, and if you haven't seen it, you don't know what I'm talking about, but I have not seen it yet. It was priceless. Oh my God. Oh, we just wasted about 3 minutes. I don't even know what we're talking about, but
we were talking about having Connor on the show.
Yeah. So Connor,
and then you were picking on me for, fangirling. But.
A little bit. Yeah. So Connor Smith, hopefully in a couple weeks when we come back here on the Power Play Post Show. So stay tuned for that. Obviously, I'll let that information out as soon as I can confirm that and whatnot. But I think that's it for this show. So that'll do it for this episode of the Power Play Post Show. We want to thank each and every one of you for listening, watching, and supporting the show. Whether you've been with us since the beginning or joining us for the first time, we're glad you're here.
Don't Don't forget to stay connected with us between episodes. Follow the Power Play Post Show on Facebook. Subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and catch every episode on YouTube. Be sure to like, comment, and share the show. It helps us reach even more hockey fans.
For the latest Binghamton Black Bears news, stats, history, interviews, and more, visit binghamtonhockey.net. It's your home for everything Binghamton hockey.
A special thank you to Rob LaPouls, our master of ceremonies, John Petitucci, our music director, for helping make the Power Play Post Show what it is.
All right. For my co-host, Taylor Welch, I'm Bob Howard. Thank you for spending part of your day with us here on the Power Play Post Show. We'll talk to you guys next time.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Power Play Post Show. Be sure to tune in next week to the Box Studios Radio Network for all the latest Black Bears news and interviews from around minor league hockey. The Power Play Post Show would like to thank John Petitucci for all the music you hear on the show. You've been listening to the Power Play Post Show.